There's growing concern in Washington about a wider war starting in the Middle East. The U.S. has already sent warships and troops to the region and is now deploying more air defense missile batteries. There are also signs that the White House is working to keep Israel's troops out of Gaza, at least for now. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with more on all of this. Ed, good morning.
Anne-Marie, good morning. CBS News has learned the Biden administration has repeatedly sought to buy time to delay Israel's ground invasion of Hamas because the focus here is not just on what Israel's doing to prepare for that invasion, but how they would do it.
What we're seeing is the prospect of a significant escalation.
As the Pentagon boosts U.S. troop posture across the Middle East, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is warning Iran not to provoke the U.S.
Our advice is don't. We maintain the right to defend ourselves, and we won't hesitate to take the appropriate action.
In recent days, Iranian proxy groups have launched attacks, including rockets targeting U.S. forces operating in Syria and Iraq. That's why Secretary of State Antony Blinken has ordered non-emergency diplomatic staff and families to leave Iraq due to increased security threats. From his home in Delaware, President Biden spent the weekend speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other leaders, including Pope Francis, about the crisis.
Are you encouraging the Israelis to delay invasion?
Talking to Israel.
On CBS's Face the Nation, Blinken didn't deny the Biden administration is urging Israel to delay a ground invasion.
It's important, as we've said, not only what they do, but how they do it, particularly when it comes to making sure that civilians are as protected as they possibly can be.
President Biden also spoke over the weekend with the leaders of Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Italy about the ongoing situation in the Middle East. And the leaders say they talked about the need to prevent escalation and to work towards a lasting peace in that region. Anne-Marie?
So to that end, Ed, certainly delaying a ground invasion so there can be more negotiations to get these hostages free at the top of the list. But also, I imagine a ground invasion has to be well thought out because of the wider implications. The world is watching. You've seen the protests in other countries, and there has to be a concern that this ground invasion could inflame some of the sentiment, the anti-Israeli sentiment that we're seeing in other areas. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Biden administration and the delicate line they have to walk, expressing their support for Israel, Israel's right to defend itself, but ensuring that there are not moves made in this conflict that will lead to a broader war?
Well, what we know is that Biden administration officials, especially those in the military that are in coordination or in touch with their Israeli counterparts, are the ones that are especially expressing at least concern about what this ground invasion would look like and what it would entail. And so while the U.S. goes to great lengths to point out that it's not dictating terms of whatever Israel's response would be, it's certainly trying to have them think through, okay, you want to invade? Well, then what happens? And then who runs Gaza? And how do you deal with the humanitarian crisis that would unfold? And it seems that in asking those questions, U.S. officials believe it may be helping them at least think through those things and therefore take a few extra days, if not weeks, to prepare for whatever their response would be. It's been notable to hear a lot of veterans of the post-9/11 era in this country sort of lay out the idea that a lot of what went on in response to those attacks was rooted in anger and revenge, and that if lessons had been learned, if things had been done differently, they might have waited and more thoroughly thought out what exactly could play out. So, yes, that is a big reason why they are trying to counsel patience and really thoughtful preparation for whatever may transpire.
We heard a little bit from the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, the conversation he had on Face the Nation. He also spoke about why the U.S. has not called for a temporary ceasefire. I want to play a little bit of his response.
We have to remember, Israel has to do everything it can to make sure this doesn't happen again. Freezing things in place where they are now would allow Hamas to remain where it is and to repeat what it's done sometime in the future. No country could accept that.
I actually did wonder about that when, there were, prior to the aid coming in to Gaza, I wondered, like, why don't they just call for a temporary ceasefire and then they can get all the aid in that they need? Can you expand a little bit more on the administration's position on this?
Well, their attitude from the beginning has been, you've got about 2 million people there in Gaza who, if attacked, are not going to be able to, feed themselves or worry about basic necessities in the midst of this invasion. And so there's been a real push to ensure that by making sure that they are, taken care of or at least accounted for as the potential military operations unfold, you prevent wider conflict and wider unrest across the Arab world, especially, that would be concerned about the fate of those people. But, I think the point Blinken makes there about why would we call necessarily for a ceasefire when a country has the right to respond is in essence the balancing act they're striking, right? That, of course somebody has the right to respond when something so terrible is done to them. The problem is those responsible are sitting among millions of people packed into that area, and their livelihoods need to be accounted for.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about support from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell over the president's ask for that pretty massive aid package. I want to play a little of what McConnell had to say to Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation Sunday about oversight on the aid, particularly the aid that would also be going to Ukraine.
If you look at the Ukraine assistance, let's talk about where the money is really going. A significant portion of it's being spent in the United States in 38 different states, replacing the weapons that we sent to Ukraine with more modern weapons. So we're rebuilding our industrial base.
That's what President Biden's seeking to do.
It's correct. No Americans are getting killed in Ukraine. We're rebuilding our industrial base. The Ukrainians are destroying the army of one of our biggest rivals. I have a hard time finding anything wrong with that.
All right. So, there you have the support that Mitch McConnell is bringing. I'm curious about the movement within the Republican Party that was critical of sending such massive aid to Ukraine. It seems like the Republicans in the Senate are certainly supportive, and Mitch McConnell is a great example of that. But what about Republicans on a whole?
Well, not all Senate Republicans are supportive. There are going to be a handful that continue to raise concerns, and so they could slow things down or at least push to try to separate out the Ukraine money from the Israeli money, the aid for Taiwan, the border security funding that may come as part of this big package. McConnell doesn't appear on Sunday morning programs that often, but he's a very loyal viewer of them. And for him to say what he said there, it was intentional. He's signaling to Republicans this not only is an international aid bill for a key ally that's really helping deconstruct the military of one of our longest foes, but it's a jobs bill for people back in your states. So why would you not consider supporting this when it could pump millions, if not billions of dollars in revenue into your states and the industrial complex of this country? So that was a really compelling argument for him to make, to try to say to these Republicans, look, at a time when we're trying to find ways to employ Americans and to boost wages, what better way than to have the defense contractors of this country start rebuilding our supply while we give them some of our current supply and create so much more in American economic activity. And the point about no Americans are dying in these conflicts yet is exactly what the president said last week. So there's agreement there among senior leadership in both parties. Good for the American economy potentially, but also safe for the American people. So why not continue to pump them with the money and avoid conflict ourselves?
All right, Ed, thank you very much.